When it comes to Tears of the Kingdom, one of the biggest things that always confused us was how quickly interest in the game died. Okay, it started off strong with a massive 10 million copies sold in its first 3 days and 20 million sold in the month or two after that. But those sales and hype were front loaded at best. Sales in the months since were low, with some even having the game sell less than its predecessor did. Interest in the game online flatlined, with activity dying off as quick as it began. And interesting content about the game fell off the charts quickly, with videos getting less interest months after release than Breath of the Wild ones did many years later. It's an alarming situation and one that's caused all sorts of confusion in the community. So, in this video, I'm going to try and get to the bottom of it, to figure out why Tears of the Kingdom died out more quickly than Breath of the Wild did. And, just like Link, I won't be going it alone. Nope, I've got some help here from Wind Waker Unflooded creator, Wind Waker Hyrule. So yeah, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Joe Kendrick, or Wind Waker Hyrule. I actually run a 3D modeling fan art project on my YouTube channel called Wind Waker Unflooded, where I am 3D modeling the land of Hyrule as it could have existed within the world of the Wind Waker. So if you ever played Wind Waker and wish that you could have explored more of its version of Hyrule, then my channel's for you. Hop on over and see the 3D modeling progress. That's all I'm going to plug. I'm really excited about this video, really excited to talk about Tears of the Kingdom. I actually really loved it. I really enjoyed playing it. My review is mostly positive, but I do have criticisms, I have critiques, and I think there are reasons that it exists differently in the cultural zeitgeist. I think there's reasons that the impact is different from the impact of Breath of the Wild or other Zelda games, and I'm really excited to get into that, and huge thank you to Gaming Reinvented for having me on the video.
And with that done, let's begin. Starting with one of the most interesting and questionable decisions Nintendo ever made, that being the complete lack of DLC and post-launch support the game got. Indeed, while Breath of the Wild got a full expansion pass with numerous extra features, Tears of the Kingdom got nothing of the sort. There was no Trial of the Sword, no extra armour, no new story content, no master mode. Nope, the game was a once and done thing, with minor bug fixes being the only thing added. And that was Nintendo's first big mistake. Yeah, we do get it, a finished game is kinda rare nowadays. But the interest brought by said content isn't worth writing off either. Look at Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, or Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or even stuff like Mario Odyssey and Luigi's Mansion 3. The extra content kept the hype going. People tuned into Directs just to see what the Fighter Pass update or Booster Calls Pass update would bring, and they kept discussion high for months on end. By not doing this to Tears of the Kingdom, Nintendo killed this hype stone dead. There was no room to discuss what could have been, or what Master Mode would bring, or what the new story dungeon would be. It was just gone. The game was out, that was it. What's more, the DLC was needed too, because many of the features in Breath of the Wild's DLC were clearly missing in Tears of the Kingdom. Okay, the armour was there by default, as was a travel medallion, but many other things were nowhere to be seen. Master Mode, the Trial of the Sword, the Ancient Horse Armour, gold enemies in general, all those were big things in Breath of the Wild, and their absence in Tears of the Kingdom made it feel incomplete. What's more, the DLC also fixed a lot of Breath of the Wild's problems too, thanks to the whole Champion's Ballad setup. Seriously, every single design decision there was made to patch up a problem with the original game's design. Thought the shrines were boring? Here are 16 more of them, all unique puzzles and layouts that put your thought processes to the test. Didn't care much of the final boss? Here's Mazkosia, a far more difficult super boss with an interesting attack pattern. Thought the story was lacking? Well, have a few more memories to fill in the blanks, plus extra content to add another 4 or so hours to the game. Heck, even the smaller aspects are like this. You could refight bosses now, there was new horse armour that could teleport horses around, and the new shrines filled up the map with even more walk points. Tears of the Kingdom could have done the same thing. It could have made horses useful again with Zonai horse armour, added more content to Sky and Depths, filled in holes in the story to explain things like the absence of guardians and divine beasts, and added challenging new dungeon or mode to really put skill players to the test. But it didn't. Instead, we got a game with little to come back for, with clear room for improvement that will likely never be fulfilled. Another issue is that while Breath of the Wild was a huge game, Tears of the Kingdom was at times 100. It had more shrines, more Korok seeds, more of everything really. And while that's good in theory, it may have overwhelmed many casual fans, especially given how many of them approached the game. They went back to play Breath of the Wild for release, then when Tears of the Kingdom came around, it was just the same thing but more for another few hundred hours. Thousands of hours hence got spent in the same Hyrule with the same characters, doing the same things without much of a break between them. It was just too much really.
Alright, so I'm back. This is Joe from Wind Waker Unflooded. We have to talk about the world design in Tears of the Kingdom, because it didn't bother me at first, and there's so many reasons that I understand why they would be reusing the overworld map. And as a player, it didn't really bother me at first. It didn't bother me in the trailers, and as a player, most of the time, I understood it, I was fine with it. But the fact is, the overworld has been reused, and it was not designed for this game. It's adapting an overworld that was designed for a previous game. I wasn't there in the room, but my assumption when they were making Breath of the Wild, of course, as they were designing the game, as they were creating concepts for different locations, figuring out the different quests and dungeons that they wanted to have, they didn't start with the terrain. They probably started with the idea of, all right, these landmarks are going to be over here on the map. They're starting to lay things out conceptually, and then once they had an idea of, oh, this is where Death Mountain's going to be, this is where the Lost Woods are going to be, and they've, assembled this map conceptually, then they're going to make the terrain and base it around what they want to put in the game. I mean, my assumption for Breath of the Wild is that if there was something that was supposed to be at the top of the mountain was designed so that you could climb it in a specific way to reach the top to find that thing. And just when you reuse the overworld like that, the geometry itself was not made for the content in the game. And it works well enough, and I think they've done a really good quick fix to readapt the map and to make it feel like it belongs. But the simple fact is that it's different. This is a different game with different mechanics. In Breath of the Wild, so much of your exploration happened through climbing. You had to climb to reach the top of a mountain, and then you could glide from your paraglider. But in that game, because of its controls, it was just harder to gain verticality. That's why getting something like Revali's Gale was such a huge upgrade, and why Revali's Gale was not a part of the next game, because verticality was not hard to gain in Tears of the Kingdom, but getting a forward boost was helpful. So it makes sense why the controls are different, but that's just fundamentally because of that relationship with the Z-axis, with height. It's weird that Tears of the Kingdom uses the same overworld design, because in Tears of the Kingdom, you don't really have to climb as much to get anywhere. And as a player, it led to situations where I would, use a glider to create my own height, fly over a mountain, and then I wasn't even interacting with that much of the mountain. I was at the bottom of it, I ascended somehow, maybe using some kind of fan system, drifted over to the top of the mountain, saw if there was anything on top of it. It just created this experience where suddenly I wasn't interacting with a large portion of the geometry of the overworld. I was just gliding over it, and it felt like a waste of space. It felt like this geometry is here, and climbing, of course, is still present in Tears of the Kingdom, but just fundamentally, from a geometric level, the player's relationship to the overworld is different in this new game.
There are also numerous lore issues too, which have likely put off both fans and Zelda lore channels, since Tears of the Kingdom wrecked much of Zelda timeline and removes a lot of things people cared about. Ganondorf? Well, he's here, but he's not the same one. It's a new Gandalf with basically no personality. The Triforce doesn't even exist, with secret stones seemingly take its place. Hyrule's founding, Roru, the imprisoning war, they're not the same ones as before, so the game might as well be a reboot for as much as it ties into anything. Add to this many connections being non-existent, why don't people recognise Link? And explanations for discrepancies being awful. Wait, the Sheikah tech just disappeared? And any interest in the game's lore quickly fell.
Alright, so I'm back again, it's Joe again, and it's time to talk about the fact that there just wasn't enough change. It's been years in universe, right, since the events of Breath of the Wild. When you play Tears of the Kingdom, We know that it's enough time for Hudson, for example, to have a daughter and for her to, become what? Maybe 7 years old, maybe 10 years old. I'm not sure if it's stated in game. But there's been several years passing in game. I'm assuming at least between 5 and 10 years. And the fact is, this is a world post-apocalypse. Zelda has been working hard to kind of repair Hyrule in many ways, and we see that in game through trying to repair relationships with towns. There's a little bit of rebuilding, but it's definitely not far enough to, be in line with this idea that it's been years since the first Breath of the Wild. And so it's weird to revisit this map, and there's a little bit of differences here and there. Lookout Landing, of course, has been built, right? There's different places that you'll notice. It's like Hateno Village has a school now. I don't think that existed in the first game. There's little things here and there, but it's little things here and there. My expectations were that it would have been rebuilt a little bit more, that you would have seen more change. All in all, I'm just really hoping that the next Zelda game we get really does something new. I don't want to return to Hyrule unless it looks drastically different.
So yeah, those are the gameplay/content reasons for the decline, but they're not the only ones. Oh no, there are outside factors that probably played a role too, with one of the main ones being hype saturation. You see, in the social media age we're now in, a new game or work doesn't really get much time to breathe. No, within 5 minutes of being released, everyone's already covered everything about it. And that's a trend you can see with games like Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Wonder, Paper Mario Remake, the Mario RPG Remake, etc. As a result, the amount of content on the game reached a fever pitch before most players could even finish the game. And this causes some issues. Firstly, it becomes difficult for most creators to find things to talk about or cover, since every idea gets done before they can get to it. As a result, the kinds of popular content that keep everyone coming back for months or years, and did so for Breath of the Wild, all got buried in the first week or two instead. What's more, it also causes audience burnout too. It's like a meme really. It's awesome for the first day or two when it's fresh and original. Once everyone and their dog is using it, yeah, it gets exhausting to listen to and people quickly move on. Unfortunately, the modern media landscape has made this inevitability for pretty much everything now. Everyone's obsession with being topical has killed the long-term hype stone dead. There's also the issue of expectations too. Put simply, Tears of the Kingdom was a very heavily hyped up game. It was a sequel to the biggest game of 2017, it featured some of the most insane features and content, and it spent 6 years in development. And that last part was probably a mistake. You see, the longer a game stays in development, the higher people's expectations tend to get. Fans don't just expect a good game now, they expect an industry changing masterpiece that's going to blow their mind in every way possible. When Tears of the Kingdom was in development for so long, fans expected more than the typical sequel. They expect a miracle game to take everything good about Breath of the Wild, fix everything bad about it, and turn the industry upside down just as much as Breath of the Wild did all those years ago. But that didn't happen, so fans were disappointed and left wondering, wait, we waited 6 years for this, causing a bit of backlash in the process. The sheer number of incredible games in 2023 also an effect too. Indeed, the year was absolutely insane for big games, movie and TV show releases, to the point it might put every other year to shame. Like, in the gaming world alone, we had Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate 3, Pikmin 4, Metroid Prime Remastered, Street Fighter 6, Resident Evil 4 Remake, the Super Mario RPG Remake, 3 Waves of Mario Kart Deluxe DLC, Sonic Superstars, Hogwarts Legacy, Spider-Man 2, Pizza Tower, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and many, many more, all in a span of 12 months. Then, add to this the other big announcements, Paper Mario 2 is getting a remake, Zelda's getting a live action movie, the big movie releases, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the Barbie movie, Oppenheimer, etc. And well, it's hard for any game to keep a consistent amount of interest for any amount of time. Finally, I also feel like the internet in general seems to be going through a quiet period right now. Twitter and alternatives, Reddit, YouTube, Discord. the stats seem to be way down, with many people and communities just seeing incredible numbers, doing far worse nowadays. And I believe there are two reasons for that. Firstly, a certain event ended a few years back. Back in 2020, this event kept everyone quarantined inside their homes for most of the day. As a result, many people flocked to social media services and video games to stave off the boredom. And this probably helped Breath of the Wild quite a bit too. Okay, the game was a 2017 release and said the event was 2019 onwards, but most people don't finish games immediately, or in many cases even buy them near launch day. So, interesting games like Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild shot upwards, alongside more current releases like Animal Crossing New Horizons, Paper Mario The Origami King and Luigi's Mansion 3. Bored people bought Switches, online game score activity skyrocket, and interesting content about said games soared along with it. Then, the situation ended, and well, you can probably guess what happened next. Most of these new people, who were playing games and talking online because they had to, went back offline instead, and perhaps even more so, to make up for lost time. Secondly, there seems to have been a bit of backlash towards social media in general, especially with certain sites and services making questionable changes. These include Reddit and their API changes, Twitter's purchase by Elon Musk, plus various other things. So, while some folks moved to other services like Mastodon and Blue Sky and Lemmy, others just moved on altogether. They realised how damaging social media was and went back offline instead. Regardless, there's going to be less hype for a game released after dark times where other alternatives are available and people aren't glued to their screens all day long. Either way, that's why Tears of the Kingdom has seemingly died off more quickly than Breath of the Wild did. It's a mix of factors related to the game itself and internet around it, and are likely others too. But yeah, what did you think? Did we cover every reason for Tears of the Kingdom's decline? What other reasons do you see for the game losing popularity like this one? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, on social media, or over on a Discord server today.